Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. The word of God, the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
So, if you don't know, we are currently in the season of Eastertide. So, Eastertide is a period of 50 days between Easter and Pentecost Sunday. So, this Sunday, today, this morning, we are talking about a pretty famous guy, right? I think even if you have not read the Bible, you've probably heard of Doubting Thomas, right? Which is, what a great label to have on you for your entire life. Right? They even try to give him a little bit extra here, as Mike said, also known as, now, he's always going to be Doubting Thomas, no matter what. And, let's be honest, doubt is pretty prevalent in our world today. Seeing isn't always believing. At least that's what some people say. And let's be honest, you can see something and not know if it's real or not. Some people, even when they see the truth, will still shout things like fake news if they don't like it, and they even try to undermine it. But with AI, which is getting much harder to figure out whether it's real or not, and people shouting fake news, it's hard to believe anything. So, I'm going to test this with all of you. Alright. Ordinary piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. Anybody want to confirm that? Does everybody agree that that's what it is?
Yes.
Let's see the other side. Okay.
We thought maybe he had some.
No, yeah. Make sure this is a piece of 8.5 by 11.
Welcome to my world.
What's that?
Welcome to my world.
So, anybody believe that I could cut a hole in this piece of paper that I could fit my entire body through? Who believes me? Who doesn't? Raise your hand if you don't believe me. Okay. Y'all said it.
There's some
I don't think anybody actually said they believe me, which, kind of hurts a little bit.
I don't know how.
Now, I will tell you, there is a rather famous character written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Okay.
Who is the character? Anybody know? What? You say it?
No, I said I should know who
You should know.
Yeah,
I was a little disappointed.
that. Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay.
Sherlock Holmes was created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, in a number of the stories, including one that was titled The Sign of Four, I have a really cool leather-bound copy of Sherlock Holmes stories. And he had a very, very famous quote about the impossible and about finding the truth. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true. And it's interesting if you think what the disciples, especially Thomas, was going through. Because for us, in our modern world, we would say, coming back from the dead is impossible, right? But is that really true for the disciples? In fact, there are 3 people that Jesus brought back from the dead while the disciples were with him. Of course, we know Lazarus, that's an easy one, but also Jairus' daughter and the widow's son, Mary. And so the disciples, this idea of coming back from the dead should not have been impossible. And yet Thomas didn't believe. He thought, I'm not so sure about this, right? And so he questioned this, and let's be honest, I think any of us probably would as well, wouldn't we? We would question whether or not this whole back as possible. After all, they had put Jesus on the cross. They had buried him, right? And so it would have been impossible for Jesus to be alive, especially after 3 days.
Come on. I can't believe this. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Oh.
Do you believe me now? Is it or is it not a hole in this piece of paper? Did I lie in any way, shape, or form? No.
I thought maybe.
That is a hole in the piece of paper
It is.
that I can fit my entire body through. Now, granted, sometimes seeing is believing. It may not have been the way you thought, but it certainly is true. But I had a great conversation at our Bible study on Tuesday night. And we all pretty much came to the consensus that we don't really blame Thomas for asking questions. Right? I mean, that's a legitimate thing to ask about. Because he really wasn't going overboard. All he was asking for, if we pay attention, was the same thing the other disciples had already got. They had seen Jesus. He's just basically saying, I want to see it too. I'm not going to believe it until I see it too. And I wonder if any of those other disciples, or even myself, would have reacted the exact same way if they had not been there. I think that's a reasonable perspective. But what Jesus is saying is believing is seeing. Jesus even says this in verse 29, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believed. So with this, we can understand that if we actually open our eyes, Jesus can be seen and is everywhere if we believe. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about this guy, Roger Pesquier. He was a retired ornithologist. I think I may pronounce that right, maybe. It's okay if you don't know what it is. He's a retired bird guy. He was a scientist that knew about birds. Okay, that's basically all it is. Why they have to come up with fancy names, I don't know. But he had actually a very interesting hobby that really didn't have much to do with up as much as it did down. You see, he could spot coins when he was walking around New York where he lived. Now, this may seem like nothing until you hear that during this time that he did this hobby, he had found thousands of dollars worth of coins. They add up, right? He'd find a bill here or there, but it was usually coins. And as the years went by, he started to focus to developing these strategies, these scientific methods to keeping track of the loose coins. Now, most of the time, what he would do, he would find spots that he knew he was going to collect change. He said one was around the bars, because you have some people that drink a little bit there. They have no idea what's falling out of the bars. So he would find change there. And he said, I've never made eye contact. He said, well, it's important that I keep my eyes on where the money is. And here's where the bird knowledge came in. Birds have this process called search images. And he said, well, they have a general idea what their food looks like, and they become very attuned to those shapes. And so he could be walking in New York, walking along the sidewalk, and from quite a ways away, he could spot a coin on the ground and tell you exactly what coin it was. In fact, he got so in tune with this whole process, if somebody dropped change, he could tell you by the sound what it is. He was very focused on that. He became so adept at this. And I wonder, could we be that earnestly seeking of God, of Jesus Christ? You see, Roger was so focused on his hobby that nothing could distract him. His sense for lost coins developed over time. And I think that's what we have to have too. develop our relationship with Jesus, when we develop this idea, this in-tune focus of looking for Jesus in different places, it becomes even better, stronger. Jesus says in Matthew 7:7, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. Jesus is saying that you'll find him if you look for him. If you actually are seeking him out with your heart and soul. But, I'll be honest, I am not good at finding things even if I'm looking at them. Anybody else? That's exactly where I was going with this. This is especially something I've seen, and this isn't for everybody, but I especially have this with my wife. She knows where everything is. I can be standing in front of it and say, I don't see it. She can say, look an inch to your left, and there it is. Right? Even from across the room. The problem is, I wasn't focused. I don't pay attention. And Jesus is saying, if you look for me, if you're sincere in looking for me, you will find me. But, if you're not paying attention, yeah, no. Many of us are like the idea from Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you just show up, Jesus will be there. Yeah, Jesus will be there, but he's not going to smack you on the back of the head and say, I'm here. Sometimes he does. But usually it's, hey, I'm right here. Open your eyes a little wider. Look for me, and you will see me. If we are doing it, and we are doing it with a sincere heart, we will find us. And we should make sure that nothing can distract us, nothing can take away our passion for more of Jesus. If we keep seeking Jesus, our spiritual senses will develop and mature over time. We can all say that as we have connected in our faith, our passion, our connection to Jesus has improved. It's from when we were kids or even young in faith to now, it's improved. We see Jesus far more clearly than what we used to. In fact, when we think about Jesus, where do we usually think of seeing Jesus? In the church. But honestly, the church is about the smallest place that we see Jesus. We see Jesus way more if we pay attention. Yes, Jesus is here. There's no question of that. But he's out there way more than he is in here. Jesus is in our neighbor, in our family, our friends, the impoverished, the immigrant, the members of the queer community, and yes, even in our enemies. And that's the worst one, isn't it? Don't we hate when Jesus is in our enemies? Because we're always looking for something that we don't like. We want something that we don't like, so we can say we don't like it. And if we see Jesus in her, then we have no excuse for not liking him. Right? We look for anything and everything. Have you ever been in an office or been in an elevator or any situation where you're mad at somebody and the only thing you can think of is, man, they were loud. You're just looking for any excuse to be mad, right? But if you do it the other way and say, but I want to see Jesus in this person, it makes it a lot harder. We have to see Jesus in everybody. Jesus even talks about this in Matthew 25, saying that how we treat others is by extension how we treat him. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. We have to see others as Jesus sees them. Because remember, when Jesus was on the cross, he had soldiers down below him that not only put him on the cross, nailed him to the cross, but were at the bottom of the cross, rolling dice to see who wins his clothes. And do you remember what he said? Father God, smite them. Nope, sure didn't, did he? He said, forgive them. We have to see others as Jesus sees them, as his beloved children. And so let us focus on how Jesus treated everyone, even those who were against him and sought his death. And with this, we can understand that if we open our eyes, Jesus can be see Jesus in each and every face, we can not support things like the removal of feeding programs, the dehumanization of anyone, the call for genocide, or anything else that we would never do to Jesus. Right? If we say we're seeing Jesus in everybody, we have to actually see Jesus in everybody and how we respond to them and to those situations. Because through that, we will truly see Jesus. And with that, we will be, quote, blessed as those who have not seen and yet have believed. Because it's hard to do, isn't it? It's hard to believe in something that we've never seen. None of us have seen the physical Jesus. Right? None of us have seen the physical Jesus. And yet we believe. And so, when we share the gospel message, we need to share that with others too. Saying, yeah, you know what? I've not seen it, but I believe. Not because we're saying we're better than them, just letting them know we're in the same boat. We understand when you say, I find it hard to believe. Yep, I get it. I understand. I was in the same place too. No judgment on them. Walking alongside them. That's what people need to hear. And that's what we need to share. When we share the gospel message, when we are seeing Jesus in everybody, we need to be honest and earnest and sincere. Not because, again, we're better than anybody else, but because we're exactly like everybody else. We all have good, bad, and bad. So, here is my challenge for this week. Pray for God to open your eyes to Jesus in all. And again, it's tough. I get it. But if we're going to say we see Jesus in just the people that are like us, that we want to see Jesus in, we miss the point. We miss the entire thing of the gospel, the entire focus, the entire foundation